Hey everyone, my name is Jake. Just kidding. Hello everyone, my name is Reed and welcome to Storytime. Today we are going to be reading some malicious compliance stories, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. You want me to shove off? Okay, I guess the lab just wasted $4,000. So I recently started posting to Reddit, and I have a lot of stories. This one happened during my first career when I worked as a scientist in a diagnostic lab. I had been working for about 2 years at this point and had just been promoted to senior scientist. I had 2 supervisors in my section, each assigned to oversee half of the tests being done in our small corner of the lab, Rory and Tanya. Tanya was the senior most supervisor of the 2, and secondary to my department head, she had the most authority over me on any given day. She also hated me. Never did figure out why, but she hated about 3/4 of the people working in the lab, so I never took it personally. I just don't think she liked people. The lab tends to attract people like that, funnily enough. We always used to joke about being the rejects stuffed in a hole at the bottom of a hospital to be kept away from the general public. As for Rory, it's important to note that he had a very good reputation in the lab of never lying. He was never once caught in even a half-truth, and he'd been working there for over 30 years. He was well liked and well trusted. This will be important later. One day I was doing one of the more technically challenging tests that our department performs. It's long, fiddly, expensive, and easy to screw up. Only senior scientists are allowed to do it unsupervised, and this was maybe the second time I've done it alone. We are talking 2 days just to get it set up. It was a nightmare. While I was measuring out some gelatin powder into a beaker, I accidentally elbowed Tanya. Our workstations were right on top of each other. This happened at least 4 to 5 times a day with everyone. I apologized and go back to what I was doing, but she flips out. Like full-on rage screaming in my face, kind of angry. After a couple minutes of her tirade, she says, "Just freak off, TerrificMoose. No one wants you here." And then she storms off to her office to cool off. Rory comes up to me, having seen and heard the whole thing, and asks if I'm alright. I say I'm a little shaken, but nothing too bad, and get ready to continue my work. But Rory had heard the whole thing, and he saw what test I was doing. He whispers to me, "Your supervisor told you to go. Best you do what she says, and if she causes a fuss about it, I'll be sure to tell the boss exactly what she said to you." Now, I knew Rory's reputation, so I'd be safe. I also know that being told to leave early by a supervisor meant that I was still paid out for the rest of the day. Provided I had worked at least 4 hours of my shift, the lab was actually pretty generous with time off, even if the pay and working conditions were crap. So, I did exactly what Tanya had said. I freaked off home. Now, at the stage I was at with that particular test, I had spent about $4,000 worth of reagents. Normally, batches of 20 samples are run to try and keep the cost down, but it was still an expensive test when you include the nearly 3 days of work from a single scientist. This was one of Tanya's tests, and therefore Rory was not required to ensure it was done. No one in my section was very happy with Tanya, and she had gone off to her office and so couldn't see me leave, so no one went to tell her that the test was left unsupervised. Apparently she didn't come back for over an hour, and by then, the test was ruined and had to be started over again. My boss was ticked. Tanya, of course, tried to throw me under the bus, saying I had left without informing anyone and that it was all my fault. But good old trustworthy Rory told the boss exactly what Tanya had said. I love Rory. I couldn't be punished for doing exactly what my supervisor had told me to do, so I got away with it completely. Unfortunately, nothing overly terrible happened to Tanya. She got formally reprimanded and had to take an anger management course that the hospital runs, but otherwise, she got no real punishment. She never yelled at me again and was always careful to word things just right around me after that. So that was something. As for what I did on my half day off, I went to the beach and enjoyed the sunshine I almost never get to see working in the deep, dark dungeon that is the average hospital lab. I made sure to bring in pictures the next day. I could see Tanya just getting mad and super angry after having to go to anger management course. That's a pretty decent punishment. Want me to withdraw your redress payment? Yes, ma'am. So I work for a major UK bank, dealing with the giving of refunds for missold payment protection insurance, PPI. Specifically, I'm on the team that deals with complex queries and unusual situations, as well as when the customer has further queries after we have sent our rejection or acceptance of their complaint. A few months ago, the part of our team that calls customers with issues that the normal call centers in India can't deal with was a bit short-handed. And as I'm one of the most senior team members with knowledge of all the processes our team uses, I was asked to call customers to assist as I was having a slow day, and my productivity is high enough that I can afford to spend about 2 days a week doing other tasks if need be. Most of these consist of, please explain why my redress payment isn't higher, please can you run me through how you calculated my refund, etc., with about 1 in 5 requiring specialist knowledge of a particular law or bank process. So enter angry customer, henceforth known as Karen. Karen had been offered a hefty refund sum around 3,000 euros, well above the average, and we were currently in the process of paying it. Karen had rung up to demand why she wasn't receiving 7,000 plus euros, as that was what all the TV adverts said. Apparently, she had deliberately lowered her payment because of reasons. She was kind of unclear. I explained to Karen that the TV adverts are misleading and that your average complaint handler has no control over the amount of money each customer receives, as things such as date taken out, time PPI was active, etc. are all taken into account and fed through a calculation program, which gives us a figure. Apparently, I was lying. Karen demanded that I withdraw her payment and give her a new, more appropriate offer. I explained to the customer that we couldn't just withdraw an offer, and if she felt she was entitled to more redress, she could take it up with the financial ombudsman, who would review her case. Regardless of their decision, her payment would be going ahead. Karen wasn't having any of it, and demanded I look at her files and personally pay her a bigger sum. Rolling my eyes, I humored her and did a brief scan of her files. Oh, what's this? It looks like Karen was declared bankrupt about 15 years ago, and both the initial contract team and payments had missed it. To be fair, it was kind of well hidden, and your average employee wouldn't recognize it. For those who don't know, being bankrupt affects you for the rest of your life, as even when you're discharged, you just go into a less bad bankruptcy. The only way out is to pay back every last penny. Anyway, for PPI, this means she is not entitled to any redress and furthermore, isn't even allowed to make a complaint. Normally, procedure in this case is to inform the customer that you will arrange for a colleague to call them back in an hour or so, and then to consult with the insolvency team. The insolvency team will then call the customer back to explain the situation, how it relates to their specific insolvency, and the steps forward. In this case, her offer would be withdrawn, and she would be told her available options. However, I run the insolvency team and all complex insolvency queries go through me. This means I am authorized to proceed with the call as is. Karen is in the middle of another rant while I'm looking into this and is again demanding that I withdraw her payment and send her a letter with the amount she deserves. As said before, normally I'd run the customer through the situation and explain what their options to claim the money were. For Karen though, I apologize to Karen, polite as I can be, and tell her that yes, I will be withdrawing her payment and sending her a letter detailing her new redress. Karen huffs and complains it took me long enough, and then she hangs up. I delete all of her redress off the system, close down the payment memo, and then send the most bare bones withdrawal of offer due to bankruptcy letter I can. Normally, I fill in a lot of extra details so the customer finds it easier to understand and understands everything. They're rarely happy, but they understand why we have to take that position. However, we don't actually have to do that as per the procedure. Off goes the letter, first class, as the customer did seem like she wanted her new amount quickly. I congratulate myself on doing exactly what the customer wanted. Karen wrote in a few weeks later whining. I ensure the item is routed to our team that reissues letters. This ensures that the exact same letter is sent out along with a covering letter saying, please find and close the requested information. After all, no point writing a new letter when I've already answered the query once. She did specifically say send me a letter with the amount I deserve and, well, you got it. Satisfying the timesheet police. Backstory. Our company has a very strict rule when it comes to salary-exempt employees. Not even sure if it is legal, but okay. You have to submit a timesheet at the beginning of each month. The only thing they want on it is any time missed and how much makeup/PTO you are using. They deduct pay for any time missed that is not made up or that PTO does not cover. They ask not to submit your full clock in/out and lunches, just any time missed. I do, however, keep a notebook of my in, out, and lunch times and have always done so. I am always super early to work so that I can take an hour lunch every day. It is allowed and a few others do this as well. Issue. Some of the upper management do not like me. I really don't know why, but it is very apparent in the micromanagement style of this place. And so, Karen watches me like a hawk. I always get here before her. She waltzes in 10 minutes late every day. She has apparently complained to my supervisor that I take very long lunches and am never around when she calls me. Karen suggested that I was likely fudging my timesheets because there is no way I was not using PTO while being gone for so long every day at lunch. This launched, because she is a fixture here, an investigation into my timesheets. Long story short, they pulled me into my supervisor's office to discuss the issue. They stated that because my timesheets were not explicit, that they had to assume I was doing this, and that they were assuming that it had been going on for a while and were preparing to fire me based off of Karen's suggestions. I then pipe up with, "But yes, I can prove my times." I then pull out my time log and they go somewhat quiet. After evaluating my time log, which took a good 45 minutes, they discovered that they in fact owed me 2 hours of PTO because of my overestimations. I was free to leave. As I walk out of my office, Karen is in the office, seemingly about to start cleaning my personal stuff out. When she saw me sit back down, she was fuming. I heard her stomp into my supervisor's office and scream at him for 10 minutes. Everything was pretty muffled, but you could easily get the gist that she was mad I was not being fired. Well, there is a lesson here. I probably need to start documenting crap because you never know if anyone's out there to get you. No refund policy? Bet. So this was a few years ago, 2016 I believe, and happened in Miami. I had just finished my first summer working 40 to 60 hour weeks in 2 restaurants at a very popular tourist destination in the Northeast, so was super burnt out by the end of August. Since I was still doing my undergraduate degree, I wanted to take about a week or 2 in between finishing up my summer work and starting the new semester. My boyfriend and I thought it would be fun to go to Miami for a few days. I found a small 1-bedroom apartment on Airbnb that looked like it was a solid bet. We didn't need something insane, but wanted to be comfortable. The total ended up being around $700 for 5 nights. Once we got there, the place was actually a studio in a questionable apartment building with barely working and unstable doorknobs and locks. Okay, fine, so there's that. But then in the room, there is no screen on the broken window. It was one of those windows where there's glass panes like blinds that can fold up and down, but the thing was shattered in multiple places. But it's 2016 and everyone's freaking out about the Zika virus, especially in Miami. I know it was probably dumb to make the trip to begin with, but when we booked, the panic hadn't gotten to the levels they were at during that time, plus I wasn't pregnant or planning on it. I still didn't want Zika though, and after paying about $700, I was expecting to at least have functioning doors, locks, windows, not to mention how dirty the rest of the place was and how many hairs were all over the shower and sink. So I contact the host, who tells me, "The other guest had no problems. Use bug spray and you will be fine." Girl! After going back and forth a few times of me explaining why to take Zika seriously, that I do not feel comfortable sleeping exposed to all the mosquitoes in the hot zone, the city had dubbed to be the most potential for infection, and asked if she could fix the window in any way, maybe come seal it or bring a screen. It's not my responsibility to repair this woman's Airbnb after all. I finally punted and asked for a refund since we would need to find another accommodation. Coming off a very long season of dealing with people's crap, I was over it. Well, Mrs. Host tells me that I can't have a refund since she has that stated on her profile, regardless of the circumstances. I say no worries, thanks for all your help. I reach out to Airbnb and they tell me they cannot refund my money because of the host policy on their page, but they would give me a credit of my stay on my account to be used in the future. Okay, but not what I needed. I needed to go to a hotel now, which cost money. I reach out to my bank, tell the sweet southern woman on the phone of my extremely dramatic Zika exposure whirlwind, tell her that I'm not staying at the Airbnb property and I will not pay the charges, and just like that, boom, my account grew about $700 that day. We went up the coast a bit outside of the Zika zone, got a great hotel, and had a good vacation. Ah, so OP got the $700 refund and still got to keep the credits on Airbnb? Not too shabby if I do say so myself. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the stories we have for today. If you liked what you heard, subscribe for more content like this daily. Go out on your merry way and have an amazing day.